I have another book to review because I just read this. And it is my first 5-star book of the year. There is nothing wrong that I can say about this book. Well, I reread Harry Potter in Spanish, and that's also perfect, but All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I don't know how to say this guy's name. I'm so sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but it's got an O and an E and 2 R's, and I don't know how those all sound together, so his name's Anthony. I can say that. If you don't know what this book is about, you have probably seen it around. It won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, and I think it really deserves it. This book is about 2 characters. It follows both of their stories, and there's, I forgot her name, I'm so bad, Marie-Laure, I think that's Laure, and she lives in France, and she's blind, and her father's a locksmith. And then we have Werner, and I can't say his name with a cool accent because I don't speak German, and Werner builds a radio. So we have these 2 really interesting characters, and we're following their stories as they sort of come together. And the author does this really interesting thing where he sort of slips back and forth from one time to another. So as we're going along with their stories, we always keep on coming back to this one moment in time when a bunch of stuff's going on. Really, you don't need to know that much about this book. If you want to read it, you probably shouldn't know that much in advance. Even the back is kind of vague, which I think is a good thing. If you like war stories, it's about World War II. It made me cry. It's sad, but it's beautifully written. And it's sad but beautiful at the same time. And yes, that does make the war seem all the more terrible, but it also makes the nice things seem that much better and makes it seem sort of like worth it for fighting. So if this sounds like your kind of thing, go check it out. If you liked The Book Thief, you will really enjoy this, but if you have any kids, or if you're young, I will warn you that there is a scene, it's not very graphic, but one female character ends up in Berlin when it's overrun by the Russians, and if you know anything about what happened then, you can make your own decision about whether or not you want to read this book. If you don't know what happened, Google it. Make your decision. It's not graphic, but it does happen. So if you haven't read it, goodbye, because I'm going to be talking about all my feelings about the plot, and I don't want to spoil you guys, because this book is really good. So bye if you haven't read the book, and let's talk about the plot. So first of all, this book is perfect. I don't have any complaints about it, which is really weird for me, because I've usually got a lot of complaints about books, even if I love them. I cried in this book. The ending, when Werner just goes out and boom, I couldn't take it, because I thought, I thought that somebody was going to die, during the bombing or something, because we keep on seeing the bombing, and they're like, one of them's going to die. It's going to happen, and we're going to learn how they met each other before, but then they just meet each other just for this one moment, and I'm there, and they're like angels singing in my head, and everything has come true, and then they get separated, and they're like, oh, there's going to be some, beautifully sad, sort of like, they're going to meet up at the end, and it's going to be wonderful, but then Werner just gets sick, and accidentally steps on a mine. I was so sad, but I also felt that it was really appropriate, because that's how war works. It's terrible, and it stabs you in the back, and you're a German who's been captured, and you're sick, and you just happen to take a step onto a mine that your very own army placed. It's how things work in war, and war is terrible. Other things like, say Manu, I want to go there so bad, just the way that Anthony Doerr describes the town. Just makes me want to go there so bad. It sounds so beautiful, and I've always wanted to go to France. And I was also very happy every single time that they mentioned a Canadian, because I've read a lot of World War II books, and they're like, the Americans and the British are coming. And they're like, oh yes, the Americans and the British just landed. And I'll be there throwing my hands up in the air, being like, we were there too. We had our own beach. It was called Juno Beach, and my grandpa was on a boat off that beach. Acknowledge us. And they do. It's like a Canadian nurse, and I'm pretty sure this was written by an American, but like, can we just give him an honorary maple leaf? He deserves it. Of course, the writing's gorgeous. I mean, if you're with me, it's because you read it, so you know how gorgeous the writing is. I have so many feelings about this book. I loved her father. I've never really thought that much about locksmiths, but just the way that Anthony Doerr could put all of these sort of like little wonderful details into all these things that for me are completely normal, like radios. I don't see anything romantic or beautiful about radios, but he made me love radios, and he made me love locks, and all these different things that mean nothing to me. By the end of this book, if somebody starts talking about shells and mollusks and stuff, I will probably stand up and start crying, because Mommy loved mollusks and shells, and she was there with Warner. But I keep on saying Warner. It's Werner. There's a difference with Werner. And I can't take it. I was reading this in the middle of a test here in Spain, and tears started coming to my face. This is the second time I've ever cried for a book, guys. This is a big deal. If you guys have read this book, did you cry? If you didn't cry, you're probably dead inside, because I'm dead inside and I cried. Just one last thing before I sign off. Can we just take a moment in time to appreciate this cover? It isn't as bad to look at as when I had Glass Sword and couldn't see it at all, but it's still not that easy to see. It's easier to see if I turn it on an angle. If you have not seen the cover of this book, go to your bookstore or library just to see this cover. It is a gorgeous cover. Everything about this book is just so gorgeous, and I can't believe it, and as a writer, I'm so jealous, because he writes beautifully, and his cover is beautiful, and his prizes are beautiful, and I'm pretty sure that the money that he gets from being a #1 New York Times bestseller looks pretty good too. Ha ha ha, I'm so funny, right? But seriously, this cover, and that's actually Saint-Malo there. I looked up photos on the internet, and that's what it really looks like. And the sky, I love how there's you can tell that there's light coming down through the clouds. And I'm gonna sound like my English teachers, who are always, they're like, Leonora, what's the symbolism of this? But I do feel like the light coming through the sky is sort of symbolic, because it's like, oh look, there's all this dark stuff, but there's a little bit of light getting through. And if you don't believe me, do you know what? If you had to pick just a normal sky or this sky, I'm pretty sure that if you were designing this cover, you'd pick this sky, and you would just go, it looks better. You'd go, oh look, you can see the light coming through. Isn't that cool? It means something about the story. And take me to Saint-Malo. Mom, if you're watching this, just take me there and read this book too, Mom. You will cry so much. Mom, if you're watching this, you need to read this book. And if for some reason you're watching and you came to the spoiler part and you haven't read this book, first of all, why? Why? This is the sort of book that, the ending is what makes it part of so beautiful. Why are you here? But I think that everybody ever, yes, you, I am giving you one job after you turn this off, and that is to go tell your friends to read this book. Thank you. This is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I am starving. Goodbye.